Yo, it's OG Molefe, the brother, in the virtual flesh.
Yeah.
How are you doing, man? How are you doing? Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being on here. How are you doing?
I can't complain, bro. Firstly, thank you so much for the invite. I guess crossing oceans and continents. But thanks to technology, the world has now become so small that we can all link up no matter where we are. And obviously brought together by this wonderful game as well. But otherwise, I'm good. I cannot complain. Above ground any day is a blessing.
That's true, man. That's true. I respect that. Hey, that is such a good answer, that above ground is a blessing. Not many people have that philosophy, it's really insightful. Good to hear, man. Good to hear. I started this podcast just for myself. As a crossing oceans, I'm in Australia at the moment, obviously you in South Africa, but the podcast is from the ground up, and we're looking to inspire and empower, young athletes, number one, and also provide a platform and opportunities for businesses that are working in the not-for-profit or any opportunity like business opportunity space to connect as well with those athletes down the line, and hopefully we can create some synergy. So it's to bring more awareness to the whole ecosystem, if that makes sense, and obviously with the core focus within the golfing community, and also this other arts and creativity space. We have other guests and connections in that world too. So I feel like if you can bring all of it together, you're not sort of streamlined into one sort of avenue or one type of audience. You inspire the minds of or tap into different audiences as well, and you can bring them in. So I suppose that's sort of a key objective of us, myself, in terms of what I'm looking to do. So yeah, I do appreciate you being on here. I suppose before we get into any sort of, I'm a light-hearted type person, even though I'm from Mitchell's Plain in South Africa. I just, not to
You've
say
had enough
anything
hardships, so
I've had enough hardships, So I take the lighter approach. I just want to fire at this question with you, like, just picture a scenario. You've got, you're standing on the tee box. It's a 460-meter par 4. You're standing there. There's a small crowd, roughly 500 people. You're stepping up to the tee, and you tee off. Not the greatest tee shot. You hook it slightly, throw it right in a golfer, left side. Just dribbles off the fairway. Maybe second cut rough. Ball stuck. You've got 175 meters left into the pin. It's a beautiful day, right? Beautiful day. Greens are lush. Fairways lush. Greens are rolling at like 11 on the stump. 175 meters in. Pin tucked back right behind a bunker.
Okay, that's not bad.
Okay. What's your thought process as you're walking towards your ball? What's your thought process, and what club are you choosing to execute on your next shot?
So approaching the ball, I'm probably thinking, once I've got the yardage, 175, I'm thinking is probably a 6-iron. I'm thinking bunker protecting the pin. So I want to clear that. So maybe, normally I take a 6-iron, but maybe I'll club up a bit because I'm not on the fairway as well. So maybe I'll club up, take my 5-iron and try and cut it in there to that back right pin. And hopefully, I don't catch a flyer out the rough, stick it close, maybe give myself a 10-foot putt for birdie. If not, and I do catch a flyer, roll up, my short game is pretty good. I think I can definitely come back with a par, but I'm definitely thinking avoid the bunker. There's probably space behind the pin. If it's long, I can chip and putt and save par. But if I pull it off and with a slight cut, I maybe get myself 10, 12 feet opportunity for a birdie. That's my thought process.
Okay. Nice. That is so good.
Whether it's going to work out or not is a different scenario in case altogether.
I like how you thought about the next shot as well, not just that shot, because you thought about giving yourself the opportunity for the birdie, and if not, you back your short game, so you can at least walk away with a par.
Yeah,
Worst case scenario.
so take out the bad miss,
Yeah.
kind of, short side yourself in a bunker there. So if I avoid the bunker, I think I should be, okay enough to up and down from there.
Yeah. It sounds like you've had this shot before in your life.
Plenty.
What was your most memorable sort of shot, like that sticks in your mind, and which course was it at?
Oh man, there's a few, but I think the sweetest shots you can think about. I think I think it's the par 5 14th on the Gary Player Country Club.
Okay.
Protected by a waste bunker. I hit a super drive. I think probably the best drive I've hit on that golf course before. And honestly, it's tough because you like the green in itself, like the landing area and spot. Also, pin was on the left hand side. You got such a small space to kind of land it, and I think I had like something like 195 in. But the drive itself was not really, I think, the best shot for me. What the approach there, which is, I think I hit a 4-iron, but probably the sweetest 4-iron I've ever hit.
Yeah.
Landed literally about 3 feet.
Yeah.
How I stopped it, I don't know, but I crunched this thing. Probably, I think for me, after hitting a shot, I knew immediately that it was going to be gold. So that 4-iron into the par 5 14th on the Gary Player Country Club. To this day, I try to replicate it. Never quite to the success. The beauty was I made the putt as well. So
that's good. I was going to ask. Yeah, that's good. You made it. You made it
the
count.
putt as well. But that approach shot for me over the waist bunker on the green. Somehow I managed to stop it, and almost a tap-in eagle was probably the best shot I've ever made.
Yeah. That's so good, man. So good.
If I could just do it again.
Yeah. Do you play that course often?
I probably play. I think I'm fortunate. I played a couple of times, in the year. I was there about a month ago, and obviously, the course. Everybody there is getting ready for the Nedbank Golf Challenges, which is coming up in the beginning of November. So they're really getting the course kind of ready. All the prep was starting. But yeah, I'm fortunate. I think I played a couple of times in the year. I think I'll be playing in a week's time, actually, which will be the final round before the course is officially closed before the tournament. So I think on Monday, the 18th, if my dates are not messed up, but somewhere there, I think we'll be playing it for the last time before the tournament itself starts. And I'm hoping maybe I can even score a Pro-Am spot, hopefully.
Oh,
that
nice,
works out.
I'd imagine sort of being in the golf space, you get many opportunities to attend Pro-Ams or invited to many Pro-Ams.
It's such a blessing that I actually do get that opportunity. And South Africa was so blessed. I think if any golfers around the world really are looking for like a golf tour to be part of, I think the Sunshine Tour is so amazing. Their tournament itself is not part of the Sunshine Tour, but their relationship with the DP World Tour provides us with like so many great tournaments to be able to be involved in. And we're heading towards that summer swing where the co-sanctioned events will be happening. So you get the Joburg Open, the Alfred Dunhill, the SA Open itself, which is, the oldest tournament that we've got in South Africa. Prestigious tournament. So I'm fortunate enough that I do get invited to play in some of those Pro-Ams. And it's also great because then you get an opportunity to play with some of the DP World Tour players. But I always enjoy actually playing with the South African players, especially even those that are now competing over in Europe and come back home to support those events. So I'm blessed enough that I get those opportunities, and it's always amazing.
Nice. That's so good. Final question before we move on. Luis Diaz, onside or offside?
Oh, no, definitely onside. I'm not a Liverpool fan, but definitely onside. What a terrible call by the VAR, man. But I would have let the goal stand.
Yeah. Who do you support?
Listen, we finally won ourselves a game. We're 2 on the trot now. For my sins, I'm a Chelsea supporter.
Okay.
undergoing a really tough time at the moment, but it's a time of change as well. And I think Mauricio Pochettino, given the time, will
Yeah.
kind of get it correct. We've got a pretty new squad, new players to try and find the combinations and get everybody to gel. It's going to take time. I'm just praying we can make the top 4 this season. It's going to be tough, but listen,
Yeah.
it seems like he's kind of getting a bit of momentum right now. But the used to be my team, Blues of London, are my team.
Well, like anybody, like he has to go through that initial phase where he has to
Exactly.
rebuild, and hopefully they keep him, to see that out. And I suppose,
I think he's a
yeah,
good enough coach, and just listening to him speak after the Fulham game, to say yes. I mean, all coaches face the pressure, but it comes with the job. So for him, the fact that it doesn't really faze him as much, win or lose, because he knows it's a process that has to happen. But once the guys start understanding his philosophy and what he wants to do, then those wins will start coming.
yeah, true. Fantastic. Moving on. With regards to golf, I mean, obviously you I've done a bit of research. You've obviously got football background,
Yeah.
and also then the golfing background, and hence the reason why I throw that in, because I feel like, maybe my level's not to your extent, but in South Africa, I think football is the world game. Like everybody plays it everywhere. You follow it, and it's just part of the culture.
It's as much as I'm immersed in the golf space, it's still my number one passion. My favorite sport in the world is still football.
Yeah, same. And I was gonna try and link it back up to the first moment, because it sounds like you deflected at some point. There would be a pivotal moment in your life where, somewhere, somehow you picked up a golf club. Can you take us back to that very first moment? Can you remember? Like, where were you? How old were you?
Absolutely.
How did the opportunity come about?
It's as clear as if it happened yesterday. I mean, as you say, for us growing up, football was easy. You got a bunch of mates on your street. Someone has a football, so you're always gonna find a game. Coming back from school, you're finding guys are playing. School holidays, you're playing every day until your parents are screaming for you to get back in the yard. So for us, football was easy to access, and that's what I grew up playing since I probably was like 4 or 5 years old. But it wasn't until I was about 11, 12, I'd say 12 years old, that I first picked up a golf club. My uncle used to be a caddy at Krugersdorp Golf Club, but kind of progressed himself, started playing the game, and he got really good. I mean, I think he went like down to something like a 3 handicap, self-taught. And what he used to make us do is when he comes back from either playing or the range, he'd make us clean his shoes and his clubs. And that was myself and 2 of my other cousins' jobs, was for us to clean his clubs, basically. And for some reason, some random Saturday, he actually took us with him to the driving range. And we were literally just messing around. And obviously, I think the first time you pick up a golf club and hit a ball, you are nowhere. But we had so much fun just knocking that bucket and just finishing it. And I think there was literally, I think I hit a pitching wedge that entire Saturday. But there's one that I caught flush and just saw, I mean, after literally skinning and shanking everything, but there's one that I caught so flush. And I just think that moment was like, wow, man, that feels so good. And we all ran like, yeah, we got it in the air type of thing, And I think that's kind of like when the bug really bit, because then I would keep asking, oh, when are we going again? When are we going again? Until my uncle eventually donated his old set of golf clubs to me. So I would then end up going without him and my other cousins. And in that, like I just literally just taught myself. I watched not back then. We had VHS. I think I had a Gary Player and a Jack Nicklaus VHS that I used to watch all the time, just how to swing. There was no YouTube at the time,
No.
So that's what I relied on, and teaching books to kind of learn the mechanics of a swing and a grip. And obviously my uncle would also add his bits and bobs that he's kind of learned over the years, and that's when it started, man. I think I was 12 years old when I first picked up a club.
That's nice. Does those cousins that you were with, did they still play as well?
My man, I think that was the one time we went, and that was it.
They don't go
they,
now.
no, they stuck to football. They were like,
Yeah.
they're not about this life of a golf club. But I don't know how or why, but I absolutely stuck it out and just enjoyed playing. For me, it became my weekends. I think even my friends throughout high school knew that, if you want me on the weekend, know that Sunday I'm not available because I'm playing, and Saturday I'm probably spending the entire day at the driving range.
Yep. So you got the introduction then through your uncle. And so I suppose he provided you with that opportunity to the access component, because obviously the access and, especially in environments, I suppose, that certain people come from, like, myself, Mitchell's Plain, there's no golf courses there.
Yeah.
There's nothing around you. You have to go like into the city, like Rondebosch,
Yeah.
King David, like all those ones. That's where the golf is at. Or if you go like out Paddo, like Belleville Way, that way there's golf courses. So it's like getting there and then also getting on the course would prove to be an issue for a lot of people. I suppose, did your uncle help you in that transition period to going every Sunday, or how did you navigate that, yourself?
I mean, I think at first, like, it probably took me I'd say 2 years or a year before I literally started doing the driving ranges and stuff. But I grew up in Kagiso, so we were from Kagiso. But what we did, like, we had a sports complex, but a lot of it was obviously pro football. There were like a couple of football pitches. But it was a time of transition as well, when Baker's mini cricket was coming on board. So we would play cricket at the stadium. There was also tennis that was being introduced. So they built these tennis courts for us, netball courts as well. So there was a multitude of sports happening at the Kagiso Sports Complex at the time. But we would kind of have to wait till late when everyone was gone to be able to go hit some balls there. So my thing was like, my uncle had like the shag bag, so we hit balls. Then I have to run, go pick them up until we started doing the driving range, like almost like a year or two later. But because he had kind of planted that seed, I then started bugging my parents to say, "Oh, please, you need to take me to the range." So I knew, I mean, if my dad gave me $20 at the time, I could spend the entire day at the driving range. And the beauty about that is that I ended up forming relationships where maybe I'd buy the first bucket of balls, and then maybe the next 2 or 3, the guy would literally just give it to me for free, because he's like, okay, here's this kid that's always there. And that's how I kind of built the repetition and just always being there. But initially, my uncle sort of sparked that interest. And now and again, him and I would kind of go to the range together. But for the most part, I think once it bit, it just got stuck with me. And I would just need to bug my folks to then drive me to the range.
Oh, okay. So you weren't like, so you hadn't evolved to course level yet. You were still on the range or on the field, going to your local sports facility, and then from there, how many years was it until you actually then? How old were you when you eventually moved up to the course level?
It was really quick, because maybe like a year or two. So by the time I was 13, 14, I was going on the course regularly. But what helped me was that Kagiso at the time is like such a small community that everyone who played golf knew everyone who played golf.
Okay.
And the beauty about it was that, like, my uncle's friends were my dad's friends. And so their friends who played golf then kind of realized that, oh, there's this kid that actually plays. So what my dad would then do is he'd maybe go drop me off at one of his friends. And because they like to travel, especially around Joburg, different parts of Joburg, the east, the west, the south, to go play these golf courses, I had a brilliant opportunity. You talk about access, because for them, I think it was also interesting to have a young kid that's actually interested in sport. And for them, when their kids, who actually happen to be my friends as well, weren't really as interested in golf, they didn't mind coming to pick me up at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and we drive 50 kilometers to go play. And for me, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was actually cool, because I would get to play all these different courses outside of Krugersdorp, where I became a member. So in a way, those other uncles then kind of like spread my wings and gave me the opportunity to experience, oh, there's a different course here, there's a different course there. Because at Krugersdorp, I basically knew, I think I was winning, those Sunday comps week after week, because I knew that course like the back of my hand. And at the time, courtesy of my handicap, I was like beating the old guys and coming back with like $250, and my dad would be
Yeah.
happy. So he thought, oh no, there's definitely something happening here. But the
Yep.
fact that he had friends that played golf also kind of helped me out big time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I suppose, do you feel, obviously, to where you are now with the foundation that you've got, that sort of environment fueled you to start this, or can you give us a bit of background as to the beginnings of the OG Molefe Foundation, and what the vision is?
It's crazy how everything is kind of serendipitous, because you're in this sport, but I'm not really thinking somehow I'm gonna make a career in golf or out of golf, or even that I would work in sport. I mean, I went to school and studied in information technology, so I thought I'd be working with computers the rest of my life, and then figured out that wasn't really for me. I'm a sports nut, so I want to be in that environment. So long story short, I somehow became a sports journalist. And in that, as we mentioned before, for years I covered football mainly. But because I've always loved golf, I would dabble in a bit of golf coverage as well, especially when the big tournaments sort of come, onto our shores.
Yep.
And I would always go to these clinics where the European tour players come and they get invited to a driving range or some spot somewhere in the township, and kids are invited, given a t-shirt and a cap, and they hit balls, and media is invited, and it's like, oh yeah, this is us growing the game, but year after year would be the same thing. And when you go maybe drive past the same driving ranges when there is no tournament, it's literally not being taken care of. Those same kids, you never see them there. And after years of asking the politicians, the sports ministers, and everybody involved, like, guys, like, what are you really doing to grow the game? And you get the same answers, like, this is not really development. This is like you guys just looking for publicity, and you get it. But once these guys go back to Europe, nothing else happens to these kids. Like, you are not supporting them. And I was like, I keep asking these guys, but what am I doing to kind of help out as well? It's good to point a finger at others, but what am I doing? What role am I playing to kind of, create that access? Because for me, I think that's the biggest hurdle, right? If my uncle didn't give me access or teach me, or, about golf, I probably would have continued just playing football. To this day, I've got friends now who mainly are starting to get into golf at an old age, and they thinking, geez, if only when I was a kid somebody had told me about the sport,
Yep.
And so that was the premise of actually starting the foundation, to say, okay, cool, now I'm in this industry, I'm actually covering a bit more golf. I've kind of made inroads within the golf space itself. I know manufacturers, I know some of the big players within the sport itself. How can I then use my influence to try and benefit a kid in a township who will never pick up a golf club until I say, yo, there's this possibility? And also, because I've now been in the industry, I kind of understand and know the opportunities that are available through golf, not just playing. There are so many other opportunities that if we can then try to give access to that, who knows, maybe one day we can have a greenkeeper that is coming out of there, a club manager that comes out of there, a golf coach, or even a professional. If that happens, that will be awesome. But let's create the opportunity for kids to be introduced into the game and help them to succeed within the golf space.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. That's brilliant. It's really commendable. Like, that's awesome. I say that because and it resonates with me, because growing up as a kid as well in Cape Town, my granddad, he was a similar sort of mindset to that. He actually ended up becoming a sort of a golf development coach manager for Western Province at the time. And I remember, same thing, he'd pick up kids like in the neighborhood in his car. You'd all like 6 or 7 kids in the car. Exactly. 4 sets of golf clubs in the back, the car's like sagging at the back, and everybody's like hanging out the window, sitting on laps, and you just go and you drive around. So like, I think he had that same sort of mentality around the opportunities that it could create, especially for kids coming out of our community, because there weren't these opportunities. So I totally understand where you're coming from, and I see sort of what you can achieve. I know you mentioned as well that part of your objective is to get some kids into school as well. What does that look like? Is that like normal schooling, or is that like golf school, or part of the OGMF squad, or what does that look like?
I mean, so when we started out, it was mainly just you get these kids access, get them golf clubs. Then I met with a guy called Rulane Mabasa, and they were busy kind of building a driving range in the middle of Soweto in Meadowlands. And so they had literally nothing in terms of the equipment, access to coaching and all that stuff. And I was like, man, this is exactly what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to plug that gap and help you do that. And that's exactly what I did. Now, the challenge would be, we do that, but I also understand how difficult it is to try and chase, let's say, a career in golf as a player. And I see a lot of guys that come into the sport, fail in a way because it's so hard to make it as a golfer, right? And so just pre-COVID, we decided, yes, man, we should try and provide an opportunity for the guys to also get an education of sorts. So at the driving range, we actually built a mobile library. Nice. And the idea was to have tutors and teachers that would come in, help the kids with their homework. So not only are they getting lessons in golf, but somebody's helping them in their schoolwork and stuff. And then COVID hit, and the benefit of us having built it was just that they kind of had a space to be able to go to and do their learning. For kids who didn't have access to internet at home, they could use the facility to be able to do some of their schoolwork. But coming out of COVID, it was kind of hard to sustain that. And I think we kind of looked at predominantly just looking at the golf side. But this year we were like, listen, man, it's been 5 years since we started this foundation. And it's good that we are actually giving kids access to the game. But the big challenge we find is kids get into the game, they get support, they get to a point where they now want to, either turn pro or just that amateur status, and they're struggling because one, it's expensive to be traveling to tournaments around the country, competing in amateur events. So what are you going to do? All these kids will do is somehow maybe go to Q school, get a conditional card, turn pro, only to struggle.
Yeah.
And what we kind of trying to do is to say, not to say make this a plan B, but make it like your plan A1. To say, if I'm not really good enough, even though I want to stay within the golf space, maybe I've studied something that can actually help me stay within the space, or even if it's outside the space. So let's create what we're now calling the OG Molefe Foundation squad, to say we're going to get a group of kids. We're taking them to school, but it's a golf-based school.
Yep.
And there they get the quality education, quality coaching. So we're taking care of both sides. And once they complete their high school education, then we explore options of, do they then study for a PGA qualification, which will then fund and help them go in that direction, just so they do have that option A1 to go with if option A doesn't kind of work out. And if we can somehow, because we've now created links where we can get them over to the States, get the funding to get them to college, they can go a great education there, play a high level of golf. And if they so choose that golf is not the path they want to take, we will have at least equipped them with a quality education that can then help them, go on, help themselves, help their families, get great jobs. I've got friends who went to college in America and they've come back home, and some have even moved back overseas and work in great industries and outside of sport. They went there on sports scholarships, but they come back and contribute in a completely different way. And that's kind of like where the new focus for us is that we'll take these amateurs and give them the best opportunity for them to try and pursue a career in golf, but know that they've got a backing of an education that, should anything not really work out for them, they can then pivot, but go in a direction that will still benefit them in the future. And that's where the education part of it comes through. But fortunately, there are now institutions where you kind of can predominantly focus on school and golf at the same time. And we're hoping that being able to do that for them will kind of put them in a great position to choose at a later stage which path they want to go down.
Yeah, nice. Is there like a sort of a age like category that, is like a sweet spot? Is it like, 15, 16 leading up to matriculation and then transitioning to college?
We'd like to even drop it to as low as 13, 14 if we can, because I think for us it's such a long-term project that we want to get the kids in early, so we build we build trust between ourselves, them and their parents first of all, to say we're taking your child and we're putting them in this environment, but this is the benefit. Because we also need that buy-in from the parents. It's no good for us to just take a 16-year-old child, maybe that's playing, and after 2 years they decide, this is not my thing. Then they've kind of taken an opportunity from someone else that we could have identified at an earlier age, and we know this person will see it through for the 5 years of their high school career or what it is. But what we don't want to lose as well is that 9-10-year-old kid that we can potentially introduce to the game. So for them, we'll continue to try and provide those opportunities, hopefully with the opportunity that in that group, we might find a kid that does also push on, and by the time they turn 13, 14 and go to high school, we can then just slot them into the squad. And then we build that high school career, hopefully college, hopefully turn pro. But if not, we've kind of created a path for you to take on other things. But in that teenage area, 14, 15, probably after 16, I think we kind of like, it's a bit late. We're kind of working with 2 kids now, Kanya and Sean. And the sad part for me is that I think we found them just slightly too late. The sweet spot when they were competing with kids that are now winning on the Challenge Tour, kids that are now winning on the Sunshine Tour, is that they never quite had that necessary support, especially from a golf side, that they could have then built that competitive level, that they should be at the same level as those kids who kind of had the privilege and the funding and the backing to be able to pursue golf professionally. But we'll continue to help them. But we're also in a position where we've said to them now, guys, you've got about 6 months to decide. Like, do you really want to pursue a golf career? Because we've given them opportunities to play in pro events. We've given them an opportunity to test themselves out against some of the best players that are looking to make that next step. And we're saying, if you can cut it at that level, save yourself the headache of even trying to go on a Sunshine Tour, because it's a grind fest of no doubt there. I've seen guys that literally get beat down so hard. It's hard to compete on the Sunshine Tour. And I think if you literally can't make it there, you're not even going to go to another step. So if we can make you avoid those struggles and rather like go take care of your family in another way, let's circumnavigate that path and let you, succeed in another path. Still in golf if you want to, but maybe not the playing side.
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting. In terms of that education piece as well, and giving them that foundation and the platform and the support, I don't know who said it first, but I think it was Dr. Bob Rotella. I don't know if you read his books, because he's all about the mindset. Like, is there, he said, I think it's him that says, golf is 90% mindset and only 10% technical. Whereas in the golfing space, everybody focuses 90% of the effort on the technical, maybe 95, and only 5% on the mental. Whereas that's the core area that you need to develop to help you overcome those challenges when you are out there trying to make it. I suppose as part of the foundation, is there emphasis on mental training as well as, like, obviously the technical side?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, hence why we want to create the squad, is that we're creating an environment where the kids will have access to mental coaching, not just physical coaching. These kids have got great swings. They can all hit a club fantastically well. And so they've got the talent. We're not going to take someone, off the street who can't hit a golf ball. But the difference is literally between their ears. And I see it all the time. I see talented guys that are playing on tour, but just can't make that next step to either win or become great or compete on a weekly basis, because mentally they just just can't do it. And so what we did for these two kids is that we actually found them a mental coach who actually works with tour players to say, please, sit with these guys, have a weekly session, find out what the problems are. And there's been deep-rooted problems that stem from years of trying to pursue this career. And so it's in trying to undo that's going to take time. Hence, my thing is, if we can find them early and start preparing those things, then it will really help them out and maybe ease out the process as well, because they are competing with kids that have a mental coach, have someone that looks at their physical side, what they eat. So it encompasses so much more. It's no longer just about hitting a golf ball and you got the talent, So we want to have all those things in place, that a guy walks into the squad and they know their coaching, education, mental side, all of it is taken care of. All they need to really worry about is go out and play golf.
Yeah, nice. That's good. What are some of the challenges that you're facing in terms of, I suppose, building out the squad and also getting more people to, I suppose, get the opportunity or seeing sort of what you guys are doing as well? Like, are there any sort of challenges you're facing?
Oh man, there's so many challenges. For instance, and this happens a lot, is that you'll find maybe a kid who really does have the potential, but because maybe prior to us coming in, someone else has been looking after them. And it's such a shame that people obviously want to also, be part of the glory. And that's not what we're about, Yeah. And so when you go to someone and say, man, if you hand over that kid to us, we will take care of them. We will give them, trust me, a better opportunity than what you are capable of doing at the moment. And people then think, oh, you're trying to snatch my kid from me. And if they go on to be great, we're going to get the credit. But that's not what we're about. If I wanted credit, I'd be doing something else. I wouldn't be, groveling, spending my time trying to run a foundation outside of everything else that I have to do. But if anything, all I want is to create an equal and a better opportunity for the kids. So that's the one challenge. I think funding is always such a huge one, because one, golf is not a cheap sport. So to be able to get these kids into the proper equipment. We found a talented girl and we looked at a set of clubs, and I'm like, geez, the fact that you've been competing with these already shows just how great you are.
Yep.
But you're competing with people that have been for fittings, have been for all these things, that they now have just that slight edge over what you can do. But let's step you up,
Yep.
But those things cost money. To be able to have the mental coach, to have a golf coach as well looking after them, those things cost money. And so for us, funding is easily the biggest one. But I haven't really let that deter us from trying to continue to break the doors and help these kids. We've somehow managed for 5 years and we keep growing. But for us, we always constantly just looking for people to come partner with us, to come help us out on this journey. And I think those are just some, of the challenges. But what we find is there's so many people willing to help, but I think there's so much more we can still do.
Yeah, definitely. As part of the support that you get, do you get much from like leading manufacturers, like your hardware, and balls and clothing and all that sort of stuff? Like, what does that look like?
I think the corporate world in itself, I think, it's in such a deep, dark place in itself, that it's hard for someone to just now donate to you.
Yep.
But the beauty about it is, as I said, for me, that the one thing that sparked the interest of me starting this was that I've got a relationship with a lot of the manufacturers. So I can go knock on doors and say, listen, I know you might not be able to give me an entire set of clubs for free, but if you can give it to me at cost price and maybe throw in a driver through it and a putter for free, that will help me out. So you also realize that I'm serious and I'm coming to the party, and I'm not just saying, give me a free lunch, because there's no such thing. But meet me halfway and try and help me out. And the beauty of being able to have a relationship with different manufacturers, then I can go do that, to say to someone, help meet me halfway. I know if it's X amount, can you give it to me at Y? I'm not saying, give it to me for free, but I'm willing to pay up to this much. But you also kind of play your part in giving back to the game, because I know you make a lot of money anyway, but money's tight for everyone, and I understand it. But we've been fortunate that, previous years we've worked with TaylorMade, we've worked with Adidas Golf, we've worked with Titleist. Guys from Callaway have been good to us. We're in talks with Strixon, with one of our players who's had a relationship with them. So everybody does really come to the party, and for us, that's been really cool.
Yeah, fantastic. I meant to tie this in early on as well. I know that you mentioned the governing bodies, like Golf RSA. I would imagine, like, what are they doing to help you and your foundation?
Oh man, I have to take my hat off to Golf RSA. I think it's a matter of just us finding a way of how it's gonna work. We've been meaning to have the meetings and the meeting of minds to say, how can they, because they're responsible for golf throughout the entire country, so they can't necessarily just be focused on us. But it's a matter of finding that sweet spot of how can they help us, and what that looks like. What's happened is that they've been able to give our kids spots, for instance, to play in some of their tournaments. So for us, it's literally raising the funds for them to get the airplane tickets, to then, get their accommodation, to be able to go compete, because these are the things they could never do. If a kid is in Joburg, they just literally stuck to playing Joburg events, if they can even afford to go to those. So it's more steps that we've been taking with Golf RSA, but we're hoping to build it into something more sustainable and something that we can literally look at that's more concrete, to say, guys, we've got X amount of players. Can we get them into X amount of your tournaments? And for me, I really want to get these kids to a position where they can compete to get into the Golf RSA elite squads. Because I think once they can get to those positions, then they'll be able to get those real benefits of being able to go play the amateur, have an opportunity to be like someone like a Christo Lamprecht, who's now become the #1 amateur in the world. Because once you get into that elite squad, you have to be good enough as well. And that's what I'm trying to push them to be. Once you're good enough to get into those spots, then I think the world is your oyster. You look at the last 4 amateur events, 3 of them have been won by South Africans, but it's because of those opportunities created by Golf RSA. So if I can find the young kids to get them to that elite level, get their amateur rankings up, and get them to be able to qualify for those squads, and then go enjoy those benefits, then I can look at the other guys coming behind.
Yeah. Like I say, it's a long vision, long-term plan.
It's a long game.
Long game. Lots to do. I suppose if you weren't doing this, what else would you be doing?
I'd be playing more golf, that's for sure.
That's what they say. If you work in golf, you don't play golf. But
no, you just
never. That's funny. I think, I kind of get where you're going with it all, and I hope that we can help you, even myself, from this side of the world, through this platform, that more people become more aware of the vision. We'll put up, I know you got your event coming up in November. We'll add that in the show description notes as well, and I'll post it on socials and everything. And hopefully we get some more people coming to you. Do you guys have a DJ and stuff happening? What's the vibe like at one of your events?
It's gonna be a vibe. We've got some of South Africa's dope DJs that happen to play golf as well, and I'm fortunate that they're friends of ours. So we're gonna have a party hole. We're gonna have party afterwards as well. Tunes on deck, DJ Milkshake. There's so many guys that are really gonna show up and try help us out to make it a great event for everybody that's attending. All of course in aid of what we're trying to do in growing the game. It's definitely a golf day like everyone wants to play in now, and I hope for those who cry and miss out every year that they've actually taken up their spots, because I think we're almost full and sold out. Those signs are probably going up soon, but we're always looking for people that want to help us out. Anyway, to sponsor, help us get the kids to school, help us have a great event. So 3rd of November at Royal Johannesburg in Kensington is where we will be. But otherwise, if you want details, head out to all our social media pages as well, and our website, and all the details are there.
Yeah, nice, man. I'll chuck that in the notes as well. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, I think that's it, man. So, OG, yo, OG. Thank you, thank you. I was gonna say young OG, but that makes no sense.
Thank you so much for reaching out, dog. Thanks for the opportunity.
No problem.
Yeah, I love what you're doing as well. The merch looks sick. And yeah, maybe we can get that back here as well and try and support in any way, shape, or form that we can.
Yeah. I'll definitely look to hook you guys up with something for sure.
That's dope.
But yeah, thanks for being a guest on From the Ground Up today. And yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch, and we'll support you from this side of the world.
Yeah.
Awesome. No problem.
Absolutely. Man. Thank you for the time, dog. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.